Welcome to Secular Sessions, where captivating conversations and profound insights come alive. In this remarkable episode, I have the honor of hosting a visionary and activist whose pale blue thoughts have captivated audiences across India and beyond. Prepare to be inspired as we delve into the depths of his wisdom and gain a unique perspective on life. Without further ado, let's introduce the mastermind himself, Anand, the brilliant mind behind Pale Blue Thoughts. Get ready to embark on a thought-provoking journey unlike any other. Welcome, Anand.
Hello everyone, my name is Anand and I'm a science promoter, free thinker and an atheist. First of all, a huge thanks to Raj from Call Me Atheist for inviting me to do an interview together. It's a huge honor and I really hope I'll be able to live up to your expectations. And don't worry about masking my face or putting up an emoji or a picture. I'm okay to appear before you and talk openly about my convictions. So just to give you a heads up, I run a science promoting channel called Pale Blue Thoughts where I strive to improve the scientific temper of my viewers. I do this because our Indian Constitution demands me to do so. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but our constitution is perhaps the world's only constitution which makes it a fundamental duty of every citizen to develop a scientific temper, humanism, a spirit of inquiry and reform. It's actually written in our constitution under Article 51AH. But sadly, the majority of the people in this country do not follow that. We still follow unscientific principles and put building temples above building schools and hospitals. We have a ministry supporting unscientific alternate medicine systems. We have a political system which has to suck up to its religious vote bank. Religiosity bleeds through the veins of the majority. It has gripped our minds and has hijacked our rational and critical thinking abilities. I want to do my bit to educate people about critical thinking and why science is the only way for humanity to progress. So, over to you, Raj.
Thank you for your introduction, and it is my pleasure to have you on my channel. Just out of curiosity, what is atheism according to you?
Well, to simplify things, atheism is a response to a single question that theists pose. They claim that a god or gods exist. An atheist says, "We don't believe you until you provide evidence for that claim." It is a stance of non-belief until there is enough evidence to believe. Atheism is simply the lack of belief in a god or gods. That's it. Atheists don't hate people who follow any religion, but most atheists are against the institution called religion. Atheists don't hate God. I mean, it's impossible to hate something if you don't believe it exists. Theists most often say, look at the trees, look at the clouds, look at the butterflies, look at the complexity of the human body. Could all this come without an intelligent mind behind it all? Sure. So if you claim all this couldn't have come without an intelligent mind that you call God, then who created God, who must be more complex than all of this? For this, they say he was self-created. This is a logical fallacy called special pleading. You just dig until you find what you want and stop digging further. Atheists do not claim that gods don't exist. We do not believe that gods exist. It is the same as saying, I don't believe flying elephants exist. I'm not required to prove that they don't. The default position is that existence must be demonstrated. Let me give you an example. If you are brought before a court and you have been accused of a crime, the court will judge you whether you are guilty or not guilty based on the evidence available. If the prosecution cannot provide sufficient evidence, the court would tell you that you are not guilty. That doesn't imply that you are innocent. It just means that there are no sufficient evidence to prove that you committed that crime. And if there is no sufficient evidence to believe in a god, then you are in the same position. Atheism is the not guilty position. If someone provides an objective, empirical evidence that any god exists, we may be the first to believe. Until then, no. In fact, I prefer to label myself as a free thinker. Labeling myself as an atheist put me into a small box where I just don't believe in God. That's it. But I want to extend it to fit other areas of life. There is a need for us to be scientific when it comes to other matters in life, like healthcare, for instance. We are surrounded by quack medicine practitioners in this country. People fall for homeopathy and Ayurveda and endanger their own lives. People believe in all kinds of pseudoscience like astrology, Vastu, Vaimanika Shastra, flat earth, etc. But I want to know and promote as many things which are closer to truth than fiction. As to when did I become an atheist? I think I was always one since my childhood. The idea of a Superman above the clouds never excited me, and I always questioned its existence. I was always skeptical about the idea. But it was only as recently as 3 to 4 years ago that I openly declared my stance and started to be vocal about it.
That's really commendable. But does your family knows that you are an atheist?
Oh, yes, I am from a religious family. However, they are not blind believers. You could say they are moderate in their beliefs. And yes, they know that I am a hardcore atheist. The one thing that I'm really proud and happy about my parents is that they never indoctrinated me with their religious beliefs. Although they used to take me to temples and all that when I was young, they never forced God onto me. I remember visiting temples, and when it came to stand and pray, I used to stand there and wonder what to pray for. I was very confused since I knew prayers don't work. I used to question my parents' beliefs right from a young age, but they never got angry on me for doing that. Although they didn't provide me with any answers, they never stopped me from thinking different from them. They just let me be, for which I'm really thankful to my parents. They knew I don't believe in a God. So now, when I started speaking openly about it on my channel and social media, my mother was never surprised. She keeps joking that she always knew I would turn out to be like this. So yeah, there were no pressures there. My wife is also non-religious, and I am a cat parent with 2 cats who literally want me to worship them instead of a god. And I'm happy doing that.
That's awesome, man. It's awesome that critical thinking was encouraged in your household. And yes, worshipping cats is a better idea than worshipping God. At least, cats are real, and we don't have to write books to explain their existence. We just have to write books to explain their behavior. Big difference. Do you think the society will be different if there are more atheists, and in what way?
There is no doubt that the world would be a better place if there were more atheists. For starters, there would be more peace than what there is now. But let me tell you one thing, there is never going to be a time when there will be no believers in this world. There is always going to be a majority who's going to believe in fairy tales and myths. That is because humans are a pattern-seeking, rationalizing animal. We have evolved to believe things. I always tell this example of how we are the predecessors of our ancestor who ran away when he heard a rustling in the grass in an African savanna. He didn't think scientifically and go into the grass to experiment whether it was a wind or a predator. If he had gone to check, and had it been a lion or a tiger, he would have been its dinner and our species wouldn't have survived. Instead, he chose to run, and that primitive brain is what we still have. We will always accept the easiest explanation than question something which we are not sure of.
I agree that we like easier explanations so we can show off that we can understand new concepts easily, but generally it is not the case. The comfort that theism can provide, but atheism doesn't, is life after that. What do you think happen after we die?
To be honest, I don't know, because as you can clearly see, I am still alive, so I can't tell you from my experience. However, I have a good feeling that when we die, we will stop thinking, breathing, and start to decay. And depending on how your family wants to do away with your dead body, you either get charred to ashes or get buried under piles of earth. Personally, I have told my family not to do any of these things or do any religious rituals on my dead body. I have asked them to donate my body to a medical college where a young student will learn essential medical skills on me. That would be my service to science. However, the problem is, I could say all this now, but what they ultimately do will not be under control because I would be dead by then. But I hope they would concede to my request. Now, coming to your question from a general point of view, I certainly don't believe in the concept of heaven and hell and reincarnation. Heaven and hell are fairy tales that humans invented to feed on the greed and fear in people. If you do good deeds, then you go up to heaven and you end up attaining what? Moksha? or dance with 72 houris and drink from rivers of alcohol, or sit around a bearded mafia boss enjoying supper every night? It's mental degeneration to think like that. Greed is one of the emotional traits that human beings have, and these stories of fantasies just feed that emotion. People end up blowing themselves up or take to killing a fellow human being after believing in these fairy tales. And the concept of hell is even more absurd. Why would an all-loving, all-knowing God need a place like hell? If he has the powers to control everything, why can't he make humans do only good things? Couldn't he have programmed us up that way? Is it impossible for the creator of this universe to do that? So why create evil, make humans do it, and then roast them forever in hellfire? That is a pretty homophobic and sadistic mind right there. Where is the benevolence in this concept? I mean, is there anything a person can do to you that would make you subject them to eternal torment if there was one? Would you? I don't think so. That makes us more moral than any god out there. And the concept of reincarnation and afterlife is pretty useless too. I'm sure I can decipher where such an idea would have come from. The earliest humans wouldn't have had an idea about death. They must have feared it more than we do now. So they created a concept in their heads where people don't put a full stop to their lives, but instead this life is just a semicolon. You have another chance and then another chance after that. It's pretty satisfying to believe that there is another life after this. Makes dying a little bit easier, right? But sadly, it is just another delusion. I mean, the concept of God itself is very sadistic, don't you think? If you saw someone being tortured or raped, would you not try to do something about it? But God doesn't even blink an eye. He could probably set it right with a wiggle of a finger, but he doesn't. That is why, if he exists, he must be a moral monster. If you really think about it, all these concepts were created by human minds who wishes to make others do their bidding and to get them to toe their line to their beliefs. Sadly, the brainwashed majority falls for these tricks written in their supposedly holy books.
What a noble thought of serving science and letting yourself be a canvas where a young aspiring student can sharpen his skills. What are your reasons to believe in science?
Well, I don't believe in science. I trust science. Both words, even though many think it means something similar, carries an entirely different meaning. You can believe anything without evidence. You can believe that a flying dragon exists or that Santa Claus exists. But trust is a word which carries with it an element of evidence. You can only trust something if you actually have some evidence that it is true. If you believe that your spouse trusts you, you need some evidence for that in the way of some look, actions, and so on. I don't believe anything. I trust things based on evidence which proves it beyond reasonable doubt. We have searched for evidence of God and we have not found anything yet, but we have found evidence of reality through science. Somehow, even believers know that science works. That is why they claim that their ancient religious texts are scientific and that what science has discovered today was already known to the ancient prophets and rishis and munis. All religions claim this. The Quran claims itself scientific and makes outrageous claims that things like fingerprint technology, oceanography, Big Bang theory, theory of relativity, etc. exists within it. The Bible is also not far behind and attempts to tie Genesis to what we know of how the universe was created, but fails miserably. Lately, even Hinduism has joined the bandwagon by claiming that ancient Vimanas existed, that Kauravas were created by IVF, Hanuman Chalisa mentions the sun or distance accurately, and that Darwin copied theory of evolution from Dashavatara, and so on. All it does is to make them look more ridiculous. In fact, let me tell you this. There is no reason for an atheist to believe in evolution, Big Bang theory, theory of relativity, or whatever. It is not a worldview. I can be an atheist and not believe in evolution or the Big Bang theory. Because atheism is a response to a single question. Do you believe that a God exists? I say no. Because I didn't have sufficient evidence. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Whether evolution is true or not, or whether the universe was created by monkeys, is not my concern. But why do we trust science and its theories is what I told earlier. Because it provides evidence. So does evolution, Big Bang theory, theory of relativity, etc. Now, I have seen many people use the God of the gaps fallacy to fit their God into whatever gaps that science finds. Once, we didn't know why thunder and lightning or floods and earthquakes happened, so they fitted their gods there. Today, we very well know and can predict most of these things. So the believers looked for the next gap, and they found it at Big Bang. Because we don't know what was before the Big Bang, or whether that it is a valid question, as space and time is supposed to have started at the Big Bang. So asking what was there before time came into being is in itself an invalid question. So what if we don't have an explanation of why the universe happened? Does it mean that it was a God that created it? No. That is a logical fallacy called argument from ignorance. You need evidence to say that. You can't fit God into any gap to fill it. The best answer is, I don't know. I mean, which of these is the more honest position to take? Making something up or saying that I don't know? I prefer the more honest answer of I don't know if I am unaware of something. But religion can never say I don't know. And that's because they believe that their God created everything. So he ought to know.
Awesome answer. We should all get behind the idea that we trust science to provide us with evidence-based information instead of God did it. So let me ask you this. What motivated you to start a YouTube channel promoting scientific thinking?
Good question. Again, the idea stemmed from my eagerness to contribute something towards our society and humanity. I used to watch a lot of videos on YouTube which promoted rationalism and free thinking. I was drawn to such videos done by people like Ravichandran C, E. A. Jabbar, Arif Hussain, Vaishakan Thambi, etc. But the videos were all in Malayalam. I wanted their talks to reach non-Malayali audiences as well. So I joined hands with my fellow atheist friend Sheen and decided to start a channel mainly to translate their videos from Malayalam to English. However, as I started making videos, I became fully involved in it and started learning more and more and started developing content on my own. This was early 2020, and then in March, we all went into lockdown. That gave me a lot of time to learn how to make videos and to read up on different content. We started the channel in July, but my friend couldn't continue giving time due to his busy work schedules. So after some initial 20 odd videos, I was on my own. My channel today contains over 200 videos on various topics related to science and atheism. I quickly learned that debunking videos had a big fan following. So that is one thing I do quite consistently. However, the channel also contains many videos which talks about everyday science. My absolute favorite is to debunk alternate medicine systems. My favorite is homeopathy, which I consider the biggest quackery of all times. In fact, my 100th video was where I turned the toilet cleaner Harpic into patentized homeopathic medicine by following homeopathic principle of concoction making and then drinking it in front of the camera. I was so confident that homeopathy is just plain water, and I was sure nothing would happen to me. And nothing did happen to me. This was my way to show through an experiment that homeopathy is utter nonsense. Astrology comes next on my list, as that is another useless notion that people carry in their minds. To believe that those gaseous and rocky planets thousands of light years away can influence our lives is the most stupidest thing humans can conceive. You can see videos that I have made on the channel stating from how the sky helped humans once and how some imbeciles wove astrology out of thin air out of the same sky. Ayurveda is next on my list as it is a most dangerous form of treatment, and the amount of unscientific things that are written in the Samhitas of Ayurveda is mind-blowing. I have made a few videos where I have exposed what is actually written in those Samhitas. Coming to people, I love to debunk the unscientific things that people like Sadhguru, Double Srees and YouTube channels like FitTuber, Ranveer Allahabadia, etc. spew. You can find some debunks that I've done on some of them on my channel. So yeah, it's been an enriching experience promoting scientific temper, humanism and trying to reform people to think critically and rationally. In fact, the information that I gained over the last 2.5 years easily surpasses what I would have learned in my 25 years of school and college education. I also found a lot of good friends through my videos. I joined a freethinkers group called Essence Global, which operates out of Kerala and a few other places. I also joined a group named the Science Brigade, whose clubhouse discussions I have recorded, edited and uploaded on my channel. I was honored to have been invited as a speaker at last year's Litmus 22, which is the annual gathering of freethinkers organized by Essence Global. Last year, it was advertised as the world's biggest atheist meet, and it literally was that. More than 10,000 people were in attendance, and to sit with some elite group of science promoters and to answer audience questions on evolution was a pretty enriching experience. All of this wouldn't have happened without Pale Blue Thoughts.
Yes, and I'm so grateful that you decided to give me your time and recorded this interview for me. And I'm glad you started your channel and started raising awareness about topics like astrology, which on the surface looks harmless, but it causes a lot of harm. And I loved your video about homeopathy. It is a must watch. I have put a link to it in the description below. What do you say to the people who say we have faith in God?
Well, faith is not a virtue, it is gullibility. Faith is an excuse that people give when they don't have any good reason to give. Because if they did, they would give that instead of accepting anything on faith. I mean, is there anything you can't accept on faith? If there is evidence for something, do you still need faith? This is often told by people who cannot move that block in their minds that their religion is nothing but a bunch of cooked up stories.
So, do you think there are any positive impacts of religion?
Well, I could name a couple of things that is often claimed as being positive impacts of religion. One is the sense of belonging and communal rapport and support system that you see at satsangs, churches and mosques. Religion provides a sense of unity among its brethren. But the problem is, it is mostly restricted to within their own religion or community. And that is a bad thing. If religions were more inclusive, then they would be better. But then, it wouldn't be a religion anymore. Some people say that religion provides education, feeds the homeless, conduct langars, builds schools and hospitals, etc., which is a help to the society. However, they don't do it with the rightful intentions, which is to serve the society. There is always an ulterior motive to it. And the second impact is festivals, which brings human beings together and makes them joyful. Okay, agreed. However, my point of contention here is that all of these can be done without religion too. If someone wanted to help another human being, it can be done without religion. And atheists do a lot of wonderful things to the society too. And yet we do it without forcing others to listen to satsangs or attend sermons or halakas. Some believers would say that religion instills hope in people and prayers offer solace when you are in a crisis. My answer to them is that you are running behind a false hope. Prayer has never helped anyone come out of any crisis or bad situation. It's always been their own effort which helped them tide over a tough situation. But they wrongly attribute it to the prayer which gets undue benefit. In fact, there has been many studies that people have conducted on the effects of prayers, like the one the Templeton Foundation did, and they have not been able to find any statistically significant correlation between prayers and healing or overcoming of hurdles. In fact, there have been findings where prayers worked in the negative when people thought they were being prayed for. So my final answer is no, there is nothing fruitful that can come attributed to religion.
How do you respond to people who argue that atheism is inherently immoral or lacks a moral compass?
I was actually waiting for this question. This is a wrongful thing that gets attributed on anyone who comes out of a religion and becomes an apostate. It's a sort of straw man that believers build in order to set fire to it and claim a moral high ground. They claim that since we don't believe in a God, we can live without fear of a judgment day when we are answerable to Him, so we can do whatever we wish to do and live an immoral life. I find it absolutely rubbish. You don't need a God to be moral. That is such a fallacy. Let's look at it this way. Who needs morality in the first place? Does God need morality? What is it to a God if humans are immoral? There is no effect to God if humans are immoral. But it has a severe impact on humans themselves. We cannot survive if we disregard respect for one another and choose to commit immoral acts. So God doesn't need morality. We do. And it also comes into picture when we start to live as a society. Let's take this example. If there was only one stranded man on an island, he doesn't need to exhibit any morality. Now if a second man comes to that island, then he has to abide by some common rules. Now if a group of people join them, then some group norms needs to be put in place. That is done to ensure the common well-being of everyone in that group. Now when we start to live as part of a society, that is the time when societal norms are put in place, which is what we call as morality. What morals did early human beings who were hunters and gatherers have? Morals were put in place when they started to live as big groups. Morality is inherent in our genes. Evolution has given it to us. We have evolved naturally to be moral. Religion has hijacked morality and claims it as its product. All you need to do is to look at the ancient text to see the contrast between today's morality and what was practiced in those times. Today, if a 53-year-old man marries a 6-year-old, he would be behind bars. Today, imagine a father taking his only son to the mountaintop to slit the poor boy's throat. The act itself would cause him to spend the rest of his years behind a jail. And would any husband be brave enough in today's world to bet his wife in a game of dice? The ancient texts are full of such immoral acts. The Quran and the Bible sanction slavery. The Bhagavad Gita condones the caste system. Perhaps these morality were normal then, but not today. And which God doesn't urge humans to kill one another? All gods, irrespective of the religion, has always supported wars. But in today's democratic world, man has laid down much better morals and we condemn wars between countries. Today, humans have much better morals than the yesteryear gods. In fact, if you see the World Happiness Index, majority of the top 10 countries are countries where the majority believes in no gods. There is lower crime rates there. There is less tension. The believers can try to burn the straw man down, but I strongly stand by my stance that atheists are more moral than believers because our morals stem from within and not from an immoral book.
Yes, it's true. We need morals for ourselves, not for the God. And in saying that, do you think there is any evidence that can convince you to believe in a higher power?
An excellent question, and I have thought a lot about it. I don't even know if God were to suddenly appear before me one day and presented himself as the God, would I believe him? I could be hallucinating for one, or it could be plain magic. How could you distinguish between what you are seeing and magic? I mean, if you saw a magician sawing a girl in half, you really don't believe that he really did saw her in half, do you? So my view is this: if there really is a God, then he would know what would convince me. I wouldn't have to do all the hard work. It is not my job to be convinced. It is his job to convince me. And so far, all gods have done is to send proof of his existence via old books which have been copies of translations, which is pretty unconvincing. And he always has to use messengers or writers to deliver his message to humans. I mean, you're talking about someone who could create this whole universe, but he has to depend on a handful of people and some old text to convince others of his existence. That's a pretty lame way, since he should know that books can be written by anyone. If someone has sufficient imagination, one can cook up any number of stories. Ask Shakespeare or J.K. Rowling. Surely God would know that. And yet, he relies on such an untrustable method to prove his existence. That is simply being stupid. And one last thing, even if God really did appear, I may believe in him, but I wouldn't worship him because no one, absolutely no one, deserves to be worshipped in this world. And from what he has done so far in this world, which is to create it and fill it with so much cruelty and suffering, he definitely doesn't deserve my respect. One more thing, I have used the pronoun he for God. I don't mean to be disrespectful to women or to any other gender. I just use the most common pronoun often depicted to God. So please pardon me for that.
It was lovely to chat with you. I definitely learned a lot just listening to you, and I hope my audience did too. Also, I'm sure we all are pleased to see a genuine, down to earth person behind pale blue thoughts. Would you like to give me and my audience a message before you go?
Well, I don't think I'm a person who can go around handing free advices. But I want to say this to all those atheists out there. You are not alone. And you should continue on your path to let the evidence lead. The world has been swimming in a sea of irrationality and superstitions and pseudoscience for centuries now. You cannot wish away all that by magic. You need to toil hard. But be bold and speak the truth. You cannot change the perceptions of everyone out there. But there will be some people who are sitting on the fence of intellectual mutation. Their numbers might be low, but they have started to open their minds slowly. They would get the spark. That flame would then get passed on, and slowly there would be a chain which would get longer until it becomes a societal norm. I'm fully sure that no freethinker is ever going to be popular, ever. No one is going to come after you with awards for the work that you are doing by promoting the truth. You're more likely to get sticks and stones, but keep at it. Be the little boy who fearlessly shouted that the emperor has no clothes. To stand up to one's convictions and to speak the truth amongst a cacophony requires a lot of courage. We don't have to blindly follow the herd and buy into their irrational and unscientific beliefs. We don't need to be driven by the media-led or politically orchestrated scares. We can all think independently and be truly open-minded. That is, by asking questions and being open to reason and logic. I also have a small message to all believers out there. Please show some sympathy towards atheists. We are no different from you in any way. You reject 99% of the gods that other people believe and only believe in the one you were indoctrinated with. We just go one God further. We disbelieve in the one that you believe in too. That's all. We have the right to live in this world with dignity, just as you do. Please don't attack us just because we don't share the same beliefs. You stop thrusting your religious beliefs onto us and we will never cross your paths. In fact, we would happily ignore you if you did. Let there be a minority who thinks rationally and logically. What is the need for intolerance against them? Let somebody open up. Let the truth come out. Why do you always need to clamp such mouths? A scream would always make a sound, and it cannot be done in silence. I think that's it, my friend. I hope everyone listening has understood what I was trying to say and that it would help people to think rationally and logically. I would like to thank Raj for the opportunity to appear on your channel and express my thoughts. I wish all the best for your channel and may it grow leaps and bounds and reach 1 million subscribers at least. Hopefully, we'll catch up again. Stay safe and let evidence lead. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind words. I'm humbled. And thank you so much, Anand, for being on my channel and giving us insights on your journey to promote critical thinking. I hope your message reaches millions of religious people and encourage them to think about their beliefs in the supernatural. And on that note, let us think, and you can call me atheist.